How has this last 3 months been for you since the featherweight the featherweight championship has been introduced? Because ever since the fight with Jermaine and Holly ended, your name has been a hot topic in this conversation. So what has this last 3 months been like for you?
It's been exciting, and it's also been frustrating. It's exciting that my name's being thrown around at the top of the division, but it's also frustrating because nothing's really happening.
Then I was going to ask you that a little bit later, but why is this so frustrating for you? Is it just because you haven't been, it seems like people want the fight between you and Cris, or are you not getting answers, or is it just really a combination of everything?
I guess it's just a combination of everything. The UFC brought in the 145-pound division, but they haven't really done anything with it apart from that fight. And it's just frustrating because I think, if they just, I know Dana recently said that they're going to come out and kind of let everyone know what's going on with the division soon. And I think we're all just waiting to hear what they're going to do, because they kind of haven't really signed anyone in the 145 division since its inception. And it's kind of all up in the air, and it's kind of, everyone's just like, what's going on? And I think we all want to know what's going on so we can move forward and kind of plan what's going to go, or what's going to happen next.
Have you talked to them at all? I know I've seen some interviews, and at the time you had said you have not had any conversations with Dana White or UFC brass. Has your team had conversations with them? And if they have, how have those conversations gone?
We haven't had any conversations with them about moving over to the UFC. My management has spoken to Sean Shelby, just saying, hey, what's going on? And from my understanding, it's pretty much just they're figuring things out, and they're not really doing anything at the moment because of that. So it's pretty much been, hey, what's going on? They're like, oh, nothing at the moment. We're still figuring things out. So that's one of the reasons why it's frustrating. They just recently said that they're thinking about bringing in the flyweight division on the Ultimate Fighter, which I think is fantastic. I think it should have happened a long time ago, but it's also kind of frustrating because, why not do the same for the featherweight? It really makes me question whether they really are committed to that weight division.
And going off of what you just said, then, do you think the UFC shouldn't have quickly come to judgment and make a featherweight division, kind of let it do what they did with the flyweights, and let them, let it nurture, get some more fighters in the weight class, and then come out with a full-fledged division instead of just creating a title fight with two fighters who really weren't featherweights?
Yeah, I think they didn't really need to bring out a title. I think they should just have started signing featherweights, making featherweight fights, and building up to a title. I think an Ultimate Fighter show with both 125 and 145, so eight flyweights, 8 featherweights, would have been perfect. I think that would have been amazing. But the UFC, they do things how they want to do things, and it's really just up in the air. We have no idea what's going on.
Now, going off of it, do you think then, instead of it being Holly and Jermaine, the first featherweight title fight should have been you and Cris?
Oh, definitely. Holly, when all her MMA fights have really been at 135, and Jermaine, she fought at 145, but it was over 5 years ago or something like that. So they aren't really true 145ers. They can make 135. And that's why I kind of get frustrated. These girls say that they're featherweights, but if you can make 135, you're not a featherweight. Myself and Cris, we are true featherweight. There is physically no way possible that either of us can make 135. And I think that, we are the two top true featherweights in the world right now, and it should have been us. I think that they should have waited for Cris to make sure that she was healthy, and she should have been fighting for the title first. They built the division for her, so why not have her in that fight? It just doesn't really make any sense.
And you're talking about, what do you think of Cris? I haven't heard too much of your thoughts on Cris Cyborg in general. What are your thoughts of her as a fighter and as a person?
I think she is a phenomenal athlete. I think she's done a lot for the sport. It's interesting. She's a pioneer of the sport. She was beating girls before Ronda Rousey even came around. She was at the top of the sport before Ronda Rousey came around. She's been doing this for a very long time. She's been undefeated for what has it been, like over 10 years now? And I think she's provided a lot of value for the sport. I thank her for what she's done for the sport, but I think it's now time for the new generation to come through and take over that mantle.
Do you think she doesn't get the credit that many people like yourself feel she doesn't get? It's always been Ronda, and then it was Gina, and then Cris smashed Gina, and then it was a little bit of a lull, and then it was back to Ronda. Then it was starting with Ronda. Do you think she doesn't get the credit that she should be getting?
That's a tough one, because I feel like she doesn't get the credit she deserves. But I think there's a lot of controversy with Cris, and I think that also hasn't helped her. So I think it's a bit of both. She deserves a lot of recognition and credit, but I think the controversy and a lot of, having been done for, being popped for the PEDs in the past really hasn't helped her image. And I think that's why she still doesn't get that push that she deserves.
And going back to Jermaine, and why do you think her and her team really haven't said too much about what is going on with her and her situation? Did you feel that a lot of people think she's being reluctant to wanting to get inside the cage, whether it's with you or whether it's with Cris? Why do you think we haven't heard much from Jermaine in terms of making a first title defense? Because that was February. We're in Maine. Beyond a media session, like a week after the fight, we haven't heard much from her at all.
Yeah, I have no idea. I think it's kind of her silence isn't really helping her. If there is something going on that is preventing her from being able to fight, then you're a champion. You kind of need to let people know. She signed on for that fight knowing that she could potentially be a world champion. And when you're a world champion, you don't get to choose who you fight. You don't get to pick and choose fights. You fight the top contenders in that weight division. And I think they're really not playing it smart. And I'm sure they have their reasons, but it doesn't look good at the moment for them. And if I'm in a 9-to-5 job and I just don't turn up to work because of a reason that I don't tell my boss, and I just go MIA, like, I'm probably going to get fired. Fighting it's a job. Like, if you just don't turn up or you don't say anything, like, you shouldn't have that belt, But I think it's a very weird situation, and I think they need to come out and clarify something, just so everyone knows. And she if people know what's going on with her, I'm sure she'll stop getting a lot of hate, because I know that she is getting a lot of hate, which is sad. But I think just coming out and saying what's going on will really help her.
Now, talk in that situation. I seen your interview on Monday on the MMA Hour. Chris called in and just that whole situation. How surprised were you when she called into the show?
I had no idea it was happening. It doesn't really bother me. So it happens all the time. But like I was surprised, but I really wasn't that surprised. If that makes sense.
Now, you gained a lot of support, and you and Chris both did after that interview, and you guys were both campaigning for the fight. And is there been any? What have you made of all this support now? There was a lot of groundswell before then, and then what happened on Monday? Social media blew up. A lot of the forums blew up, and just chatter among fans that like, hey, this is the fight that should be made. At the end of the day, should you and Chris be fighting at UFC 214 on July the 29th?
Yeah, definitely. She wants to fight in her home country, her adopted home country. She lives in Orange County. So, she wants to fight. If Jermaine's not ready, then I deserve that fight more than anybody else. She was the champion at Invicta. I am now the champion at Invicta. It just makes sense. She said that she's asked for that fight before, and my management said I wasn't ready. Like, that's a complete lie. Like, my management has never been approached about this fight. So, you can't say that she's been campaigning for it and we said no, because we've never been approached for that fight. She needs an opponent. I need a fight. Let's do it.
You said in an interview on Monday that you're the one to beat Cris Cyborg. Why are you the one to beat Cris Cyborg?
I guess, like, everyone is beatable. And I think a lot of people go into fighting Cris already beat mentally. But I've never gone into a fight that I'm not prepared for. I honestly believe that I am the best in the world, and I'm the only one that has the skills, the ability, and the fight IQ to beat her. I believe in my abilities. I believe in my training. I believe in my coaches. And, if that fight happens at UFC 214, I'm going to shock the world, because, of course, everyone thinks that I'm not at that level, or I'm not capable of beating her, and she's just this machine. I'm going to prove that. I'm going to show everyone that she's human and she's beatable, and that there is a new face to the division.
How disappointed would you be if that fight doesn't happen on July 29th?
I'd be very disappointed, because this is the fight that needs to happen. This is the fight that renews interest in the 45 division. And if the UFC don't want the two best featherweights in the world to fight, then can you really say that they're invested in the division? If this fight doesn't happen, I'm going to be disappointed. But I'll go back to it. I'll stay in Invicta. I'll defend my belt, and we'll go from there.
Going off of that, what you just said, and if the fight doesn't happen and you go to Invicta, you defend your title, and then now, how many fights, before we go there, how many fights do you have left on your Invicta contract?
I'm not too sure. My management knows that. I don't really pay attention to that stuff. They come to me with a fight, we say yes, and we fight.
That's a good way to go about it. And if for one reason or another, say the UFC doesn't make this fight for one reason or another, and they do what they want to do, and they don't really put too much in the 145 division, there is a company that has invested in this division, and it is Bellator. And would that be an option? Would it be option B if down the line the UFC decides not to make this fight and things don't play out the way you and your team think it should play out?
Yeah, definitely it is an option. In Invicta, I'm not really too sure who they would match me with. At the moment, there's a few 1 or 2 fight girls who, like, in a few fights' time would be good fights, but, there's not really anyone now. So I'm not too sure who they would match me with, but, I love Shannon and what she's done for women's MMA, but I also, it is an option down the line.
Has Invicta come to you with the fight? Because I've heard some rumblings that they've come to you to a date for July. Is that true, and is that something you would be interested in if this fight with Cris doesn't happen?
Yeah, no, Shannon has expressed that she would like me for July 15th, and if this fight with Cris doesn't go through, then yeah, I would definitely fight for Shannon and defend my belt against whoever that they decide.
And 2 more questions, Megan, and thank you for the time today. It's greatly appreciated. And do you think, at the end of the day, after everything that's happened in the last 3 months or so, do you think in your own mind that you will fight Cris Cyborg, whether it's in July or somewhere down the line?
Oh, we will definitely fight. I have no doubt about that. And I look forward to when it happens.
When do you think that'll be?
I have no idea. I really don't, if the UFC, we haven't been approached at all. We haven't heard anything from them about this fight or about trying to match this fight. So if they don't match it, then, I'm sure down the line, whether it's, in the UFC, in Invicta, or in Bellator, I'm sure we will fight, and I look forward to it.
Now, and final question, Megan, and now, what do you want to say to the fans? Because this is, the support has been unbelievable just from seeing a lot of fans on social media towards you and talking to casual fans as well. They're realizing what's going on right now. What would you like to say to the fans who have supported you in the last 3 months?
Thank you. I get a lot of negativity and a lot of hate, and it's hard to see past that sometimes because, Cris has a very big following, and a lot of her fans are very diehard fans, and sometimes they can be a little over the top. But, I cannot thank the people who have supported me, even from the beginning, for believing in me, following my journey. I can't thank them enough because, without the fans, we don't really have a sport. That's what makes this sport is the fans, and I cannot thank them enough for believing me, believing in me, and stay the course, stay Team Anderson.
Megan, I want to really thank you for the time today. I know it's Friday. I know you got a busy day coming up, so I really want to thank you for the time today. And hopefully this conversation will lead to the fight coming up with Cris. And we greatly appreciate the time. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully you get the fight. And the next time we talk, it'll be about a fight with Cris Cyborg.
Yes, hopefully. No worries. Thanks for wanting to chat.
All right. Thank you, Megan.
No problem. Bye.
Bye-bye.